guys, less than 24 hours of Mahmood Yakubu leaving his position as the INEC chairman, court has ordered for his arrest. Like you can see here, this headline here says, court orders IGP to arrest Mahmood Yakubu, ex-INEC chairman. So guys, these people forgot that power is transient. They forgot that the position they hold today, they might not hold it tomorrow. So Mahmood will start testing some of the waters he has never tested before now, because you can see that he's like a used and dumped person. They've used him for the last election, now they've dumped him. You've seen how he left INEC quietly, I mean shamefully. That is why it is always good to maximize every little opportunity that is being given to you. I'm just going to allow you to take a look at how Arise TV crew members have discussed Mahmood Yakubu's situation and him leaving INEC at the moment. Take your time and watch this video. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Now take a look.
So a couple of stories. Professor Mahmood Yakubu, yes, his legacy will be dogged by the elections, and most especially in 2023, and all the high promises INEC made, but it was below par. Till date, we did not know what constituted a technical glitch. Till date, there are many questions about that elections that we'll never get to know. Till date, we'll never know what happened to the server. Till date, we'll never know what happened to the result process. But apart from Professor Mahmood Yakubu's legacy, I don't think we're ready for the 2027 elections. And I think largely everything that happened in 2023 will still happen in 2027 elections. In fact, even worse off. There was a report released by Vanguard that was showing how some politicians were planning to rig serialization of Form EC8A, B, and C forms and other methods that they're trying to use. Till date, all the problems we complained about in 2023 elections and the reforms we called for, the National Assembly has not passed them. As we speak, we're already at the end of the year. 2026, no National Assembly will look at those reforms. And when no National Assembly looks at those reforms, even if they look at the reforms and they send it forward, President Tinubu can just toss it and say they should go back and take it back and look at it again, just like President Buhari did. No president will sign reforms that might hamper his own electoral prospects. We saw President Buhari do it in 2019. And I predict to you this morning that 2027 elections will just be like 2023 elections, even way worse. You can mark my words down for that, because we have not seen those reforms. As regards the minister resigning, today I would like to give kudos to the spirit of journalism, what true journalism is always about, not sentiments, which separates the wheat from the chaff. And I'd like to give kudos this morning to Samuel Ogundipe's outfit, the People's Gazette. I first went on the story and raised alarm. In fact, even called out the security authorities that they passed a man in ministerial screening that had forged certificates. Yes, a lot of people are quoting People's Gazette's, the response that was given by the registrar to People's Gazette, which the response has now been nullified. But there's also a backstory to that, because we all know. And the registrar has now written again to show that the man didn't actually graduate from the school. And the VC also for standing tall, although a lot of people have said there's a political inclination to it. But I think what also nailed it was the work of Premium Times. And I'm going to give due commendation to the likes of Majid and his crew today for the immense work they did as regards that. And they laid out the story bare. So the credit for me goes to People's Gazette and Premium Times, for the work they did. But I think what also nailed it was a document that came out yesterday showing when the school wrote to him that MCB for something, virology course, he will carry it over because he didn't pass it. And that letter was around late 1985. And he responded to that letter in his own words. And these were documents released by the university showing that MCB course, he was going to write the exam in June 1986. So there was no way where he wrote a letter that he was going to write the exam in June 1986, and he claimed his NYC certificate that his NYC was from 1985, I think April, to about 1986. But there was no way he was going to be able to attribute that, because as of 1986, based on his own letter he wrote, he was supposed to be writing his final exam in June 1986. And all the arguments his spokespeople were making was already falling flat on his feet. And I'm sure the minister had to take the high road. He did the honorable thing. He took it and he resigned and he turned out in his resignation. But that should not be the end of the case. There should be more investigations. And with due respect, we'd like to call on the security authorities. Please, all the forms or anything submitted by people in this country, and I'm talking about to INEC and other bodies, I think it's time we should evaluate them. And I think it's also time that we put in our schedule and our laws that we should be able to scrutinize forms that are submitted and make them pass through forensic analysis. Because if we had done that, then we'll be spared all of this. This morning, I feel for the Tinubu administration because this is another big blight on the Tinubu administration. And if proper scrutiny was done, this will not be the case. So, this has happened. As regards to borrowing, if my memory serves me right, this year alone, we've done about 21 billion. I was seeing another 500 million from Afrexim Bank borrowing. Then this 2-point-something billion that we're doing now. But this is the same government that says that all our savings from subsidy will be spent on infrastructure and all of that. And if the numbers serves us right and the revenues we are making as they claim, why are we going through this rigmarole of borrowing? But what is even shocking me the most is what they want to use this particular borrowing for. And please, experts in this field, correct me. I don't know anything. Correct me. Part of that money is to be used for the Euro bonds that are maturing. And I wonder, why are we borrowing to reflate Euro bonds that are maturing at a time where we claim we are doing well on our reserves? We're having about $42 billion in our reserves.
What we are faced with that Nigerians can legitimately complain about is that this culture of borrow, borrow, borrow. Every time they say we are borrowing. Now, how many times have we heard the story of borrowing this year alone? What the critics are saying, 2 points. One, that when you borrow, the borrowing should be for specific results. Borrowing should be tied to revenue. If you are borrowing for projects, then those projects should also generate revenue. Number two is the point that, okay, you are borrowing. That in itself is not a problem. But government must also show prudence in terms of management of resources. You cannot have the kind of conspicuous consumption that frightens the people, and the people say, what exactly are they borrowing for? So those are the key issues in that regard, in my view. What are the benchmarks also? There must also be transparency in terms of government saying, this is what we are borrowing for, this will be the outcome, not just to take papers to National Assembly all the time and say, we want to borrow, we want to borrow. No. In a country where the unemployment figure is so high and people are groaning, there must be greater accountability in terms of how you process the details. The economists will say, oh, government can borrow. But the issue is, what are we borrowing for? That opaqueness in that regard is what causes the friction in terms of public trust. Now, World Bank says Nigeria's growth projection has been put up to, I think, 4.2% from 4.1%, 0.6% readjustment. Now, World Bank, IMF, they've always been telling us a lot about statistics. But Nigerians look at these figures and they say it's just statistics. What exactly are we achieving in terms of impact in the lives of the people? Even China is under reduced demand, deflation, economists call it, real estate problems. But here in Nigeria, we just have figures that things are getting better. Even World Bank and IMF, they bought into that rhetoric. But the people are saying, we don't see it in terms of lived, reality, daily reality of the people. But it's okay. Some economists even say that even 4.2% growth rate is not enough. After all, once upon a time, when this economy in Nigeria was rebased, it was close to 10%. So why this celebration, chest beating, about 4.2% growth rate? But give it to the Tinubu administration. They've been able to have good relations with IMF, with World Bank. I can't remember the last time World Bank or IMF criticized the Tinubu administration. They've been very positive. So that's very good diplomacy in that regard, even if those institutions are not expected to be partisan, given the structure that they run. Now about INEC, Professor Yakubu Mahmood has completed his tenure. He was first appointed in 2015, and he has spent 10 years, 2 terms in that regard. Now he has completed his term. I think the emphasis should be on the future of that institution. The controversy is about who is next as chairman of INEC. Now, I said previously on this program that people are saying, oh, it's not a turn of the Southwest, that the Southwest should be the next person. Well, I said it's about competence. It's about who is the best man for the job. In fact, I went further and even proposed myself as a possible chairman of INEC, and I made the point that I would do a good job. And, because we need to get elections right in this country. But apparently, nobody has asked for my CV since that time. So, but that's Nigeria. But if they give me the job, I will do it. But right now, May Agbamuche, who is the most senior person in INEC, has been given the temporary position. And I think that's just procedural. But the question to ask is it not even better, let's push my own personal interest aside, for somebody within the system, somebody who understands the system, to be the person who will move that institution forward, someone who understands the issues like May Agbamuche. I don't think there's anything wrong in confirming her as a INEC chairperson. But if somebody is going to come from outside, an outsider will spend like 6 months even learning, 1 year learning. So all of these issues should be looked at. However, the more important point is about electoral reform. Creating a system in Nigeria whereby the results of the elections reflect the will of the people. The will of the people subdued, discounted, maltreated, disregarded in the electoral system of Nigeria. That is a major issue that we have to face. While we are looking for a new INEC chairperson, chairman, whatever, we need to also worry about that. And we don't need to leave that till the last moment when it will now be said, oh, it's too late. We cannot do it again. Now, nnamdi, the man that resigned yesterday as a Minister of Innovation, Science and Technology. I wrote about that yesterday in my column, back page of This Day Live, This Day newspaper. They also call themselves This Day Live, which is the program we do on Sunday. Now, the issue is about integrity. This is the second minister of the Federal Republic who is going to resign as a minister. Before him was Kemi Adeosun, who resigned. Now, the question to ask is, was he pushed? Did he jump? 2 issues with Minister nnamdi, as he then was. Forgery of a certificate. He claimed to have a degree from University of Nigeria, Nsukka. University of Nigeria, Nsukka is the foremost independent, post-independence university in Nigeria. It's the only university that is named after Nigeria. Now, that same university gave us conflicting reports. There was one December 31, 2023 report that said, oh, he graduated. Now, in August and September this year, 2 other reports from the university saying that, oh, he didn't graduate. Even the Vice Chancellor, Professor Otwanya, has come forward to say, oh, his name was used in vain. No, he didn't say anything. Now, universities are supposed to be citadels of learning and institutions that promote character. And my argument yesterday is that the University of Nigeria, Nsukka, owes Nigerians an explanation. You can't have an institution that is training you know, a major workforce for the country, flip-flopping and talking from both sides of the mouth, you know, raising questions about integrity. And I even said that the alumni of University of Nigeria, Nsukka, should be thoroughly embarrassed because they go about, they say, we are lions, we are lionesses. These your lioness and lions. You people have misbehaved badly in terms of how your institution has projected you. Second, I think it's good news that Minister Nnamdi has resigned. And it was a bit surprising because before his resignation, there were persons going around in Abuja saying, oh, he's a victim of political persecution. They were saying, oh, he's Dr. Peter Mba, governor of Enugu State, that is after him. Whatever all those, you know, details are. What is important is that people who want big positions must know that there are laws about perjury and forgery in this country. In fact, there are persons who are saying Nnamdi should not be allowed to get away with his violation of the law, that he should be tried, that it's not enough for him to have resigned, whether he was pushed or he jumped. After all, for forgery, I think it's about 14 years imprisonment. Now, he must come and explain how he came about the NYSC certificate that he submitted to the Senate and that he presented to the government of Nigeria. He committed perjury on oath for making false misrepresentations, for making false representations. So it's not, you know, that he has resigned and all of that. No, it looks to me that a crime has been committed and that, you know, that should be pursued further. And that should be a lesson for all future federal government appointees. There's also a question about the integrity of the institutions who are supposed to vet the credentials that are submitted by government appointees. What did they do? They could not spot that a false NYSC certificate was submitted and that this person did not present a proper university certificate. I've also argued, however, that you don't need to have a degree to be a minister, to be a governor, to even be president. Just fail school SAT. If I just have the ability to speak English, that is enough for Nigeria. But that's another subject because we say that Division 3 people should not be the ones that rule us. If you say you can just speak English, you failed, you dropped out, you misbehaved while you were writing school SAT, and you can be whatever you want to be. No, that makes the situation disgraceful because we have properly educated people here. And maybe that's why I was saying I should be INEC chairman. Yeah. After all, there will be no issue with my own certificates.
I think you can defend all your certificates, Dr. Abati. All right, okay, so let me start with Mr. Jeffrey Uche-Naji. And I agree completely about the fact that when we're talking about just a resignation, that's not enough. We often talk about the fact that the reason why certain crimes are perpetrated or why there's a lot of corruption is because there seems to be no consequence for actions around this. In 1999, the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Salisu Buhari, was exposed by the News investigation. The outfit publication was, the publication was called The News. They had investigated and found out that he had actually falsified his age, he had forged his certificate, and the institution which he had claimed he had attended, he didn't attend. And so following the investigation, Mr. Buhari, in fashion, as we see now, came out and said it was a witch hunt, that his political enemies were against him, and he was going to sue the News for libel. Later on that year, he came out to apologize and said, I apologize to you, I apologize to the nation, I apologize to my family and friends for all the distress I have caused them. I have misled in error by zeal to serve the nation. And so it was found out that he actually was younger, he falsified his age, he actually did not attend the institution he had claimed to have attended. And he was actually tried and sentenced to 2 years imprisonment for, for falsifying his documents, even though he had the option of fine, which he took and was later pardoned by the then president, Olusegun Obasanjo. But this has played out. If you look at it in history, we have seen public officials like Mr. Nnamdi falsify documents in order to attain or get to the position they've gotten to. So what we are asking for is that in order to act as a deterrent, a resignation is good. I mean, he had no choice, to be fair, because he would have been exposed again and again because there was a lot of evidence to back up that report that had come out against him. But it's not only about resignation. First, it's an embarrassment to this administration, like Dr. Patu, you mentioned, the fact that due process and the vetting of his documents was not properly done at this level, at this height of appointment. It speaks a lot about the detail of the agencies that were responsible. At the time of Mr. Buhari, the NSA, General Mohammed, Dr. Patu, your friend, you talk about him a lot. I just remembered his name. Gusau, yes, had announced, the NSA at the time had announced that they were going to institute an investigation into Mr. Buhari's claims. And they did. We haven't heard anything, at least officially, from the NSA right now. We haven't heard anything officially as to what would be done now that he has taken the option of resignation. He himself has said he's going to sue, that it's a political witch hunt. I hope that he would be able to go all the way to sue, because it's damaging to his reputation and damaging to the reputation of the person who appointed him in the first place. If we don't see consequences, it is not a deterrent to young people who are watching or future political office holders who, if it's just a slap on the wrist, there's no consequence, would go ahead and keep on falsifying. And I agree as well that perhaps it's time we started to investigate and see, for all those who are holding public office in trust of the people, whether or not their qualifications, their certificates are genuine. And it's very easy. We can use technology to find this out. We had mentioned earlier that we were about to do that for all, public employees. Let us start with the appointees and see how many of them who brought the certificates in actually, whether those in elected positions, whether those who are appointed by government officials. Let us see whose certificate is actually true. Now, moving on to that, we then go to the INEC chairman, Professor Mahmood Yakubu, who has now said he's embarking on his leave of absence, and May Agbamuche Mbu. We've talked a lot about INEC under Professor Yakubu, and I'm sure we would continue to speak about that. Later on today, we have Frank Tate here, and hopefully we'll really dissect what his legacy as INEC chairman would be, because at the end of the day, it's about legacy. At the end of the day, the work that you've done will speak for you. How was he able to manage INEC under his tenure? But even more importantly, because we face a critical time in the electoral process of the nation, is who will be stepping into the shoes of Professor Mahmood Yakubu. Currently, in the acting capacity, we have May Agbamuche Mbu, and of course, I'm delighted about that. It's always great to see a woman step up to positions of influence in that regard. Earlier this morning, going viral again, is that very iconic video by Professor nnamdi, who was the returning officer in Abia State and who had come out for her show of integrity when she was in the storm and in the eye of compromise, or in the face of compromise. She said something that I think is very instructive as we look forward to whom will become the next INEC chairman substantive. She said, "I have never sold a handout. I have never defrauded anyone." So what she was speaking to was the integrity of her person. Perhaps in the selection process of the INEC chairman, there should be an opportunity for people to report or give testimonials about the person in question as to how they served in the past, if there's anything that can be brought forward against them, even in little things. Because if you sell handouts, as little as it is, in that corrupt manner, you will be corrupt when you become INEC chairman. These are the little things to talk about when it comes to the appointment of people who take on this key role as either INEC chairman or otherwise. May Agbamuche Mbu is a member of the family, at some point was a member of this family. She was editor of the Legal Eye, and she was able to shape conversations around legal matters in the country at the time in this day newspaper. She's also been a lawyer for over 30 years. She comes with a wealth of experience. She has served in government as well, in a presidential committee overseeing projects across the country. She comes in very well experienced and is said to be a woman of integrity. But of course, you know what happens when positions like this set in. It is the taste of the pudding, they say, is in the eating.
It has to be an electoral revolution. Mr. Victor, it is simple. Nigeria, we have been living in self-deceit. We have been living a lie. We claim to be a democracy. This year we celebrated 26 years of uninterrupted democracy in our fourth republic, and we have just done 65 years of independence. The hallmark of every democracy are free, fair, credible, and peaceful elections. That is the foundation, because it is a social contract where the citizens choose their leaders, and when they are dissatisfied with their performance, they can vote them out. If you fail to fix elections, there is no point of accountability. So we go through a vicious circle where people just continue to lament about bad leadership. They rig themselves back into power. They complete their 8 years. They rig another person who will become even worse. So if truly we want to be a democracy, it must be through free, fair, credible, and peaceful elections. Because elections do not only bring government, they give legitimacy to governance. That is why it became very important that, look, INEC and the electoral process and the judiciary have become the weapon fashion against Nigeria. We must put a spotlight on it. Since 1999, the current president is the only president who has not come out to talk about electoral reforms and free and fair election, even though he prides himself as being one of the persons who fought for the June 12 MK Abiola mandate, which was all about free and fair elections. 32 years later, Nigeria cannot boast of conducting credible elections. Even the late President Yaradua admitted that the elections that brought himself and the then Vice President Jonathan, he said they were flawed. We needed to improve on them. Unfortunately, he passed. But President Jonathan took it a step further to sign the 2011 Electoral Act, conducted the elections that were seemingly free and fair that brought President Buhari. Then the destruction of INEC and the judicial system began. And that is where we are today. And if we fail to fix it and they consolidate on what happened, the criminality we call elections of 2023, then we are done for as a country, because there is a template. The current ruling party has a pedigree. We have Lagos State to look at for the last 26 years. Nigerians must fix that system of accountability. Whoever that Nigerians chose, let it come as the mandate of the people. You cannot come through the window and claim to be sanitizing the house. No. The process of getting into power is more important than what you do with the power. That is why we are on this. The leadership of INEC should bury their heads in shame. The professor of INEC, the INEC chairman currently, his tenure will soon be finishing. In a normal society where there is a rule of law, the INEC chairman should be on a subject of investigation. And I say it with unequivocally. If you collect 300 and something billion to carry out one particular project, you said electronic technology will be the game changer. You needed about 150 billion and all of the position papers you did. Sir, on the day of delivering, you said the Senate result could pass through the server, but the presidential could not because there was a glitch. Sir, do we know what caused the glitch? Has INEC told us why we should not have further glitches moving forward? The politicians, have they come out to say, in the minimum, let us know why taxpayer money should be wasted in such a misadventure and on the day of delivery it fails? Until date, there is no conversation about electronic tech. In fact, the 2023 election has not even been reviewed by this current INEC chairman who is about to go. And when you say the people do not trust the process, INEC data for 2023, total number of registered voters was about 93 million. Collected PVCs were about 87 million according to INEC. The total number of persons who voted in that election were less than 28 million people. Sir, why do more than 50 million people take the pain of registering, collecting PVC and are not interested? It's simple. Nigerians do not trust those processes or those activities we call elections. In the words of one of the African Union observation team that came in 2023, they say what we came to do was not election monitoring, it was a crime watch. Imagine leadership that comes from a process of criminality. How does the country move forward? And INEC is telling people that it's not about. So for us now, it is to plug the loopholes. If the judiciary had done what they needed to do, we will not be where we are. But unfortunately, the judiciary have decided to be a willing tool in the hands of the politicians. So we need to plug every loophole and ensure that there is less human interference no matter who is running the agency, and then mobilize to protect your vote. But I personally believe that what will change elections in Nigeria is an electoral revolution. It has to become a national conversation. The issues of election in Nigeria must be raised to the level of a national crisis, because failure to do so will just allow us to be at the mercies of the politicians in government and persons who they install there. The act is clear. The guidelines for INEC are clear about how to appoint persons. But of course, it's solely the prerogative of the president. Persons are saying that, oh, you may need to now amend the law so that it is not just the sole responsibility of the president, who will also be a participant or a contestant, picking the umpire. But then again, to what extent can we really control the interference of people? Even those who may not be card-carrying members, by the time they get in there, how do you control their own activities? That was why it became important that, can technology insulate the process from human interference? And even when you raise all of these issues and say this person should not be a national commissioner, the person is a card-carrying member, what judiciary are you going to take the case to, sir? So Nigerians must wake up, because even now, the electoral reform, there is no political will from this 10th assembly to... If you pass electoral reform and do free and fair election, you are almost saying that 90% of the current politicians should retire and go out of office. So it will take a critical mass of Nigerians to wake up and insist that the right thing should be done, or else we continue in these irregularities. Nigerians must mobilize civil society, everybody who means well for Nigeria. As the Senate resumes and begins considerations, they will begin a public hearing and all of those calisthenics about trying to do this, because of course politicians will be politicians. If they give you reform A, they open a loophole by B, because you know you cannot have it all together. So everybody must, in Nigeria they will say men must mount. Nigerians must put maximum civic pressure to implement or express your right to peaceful assembly. Put the pressure you need, and then begin to look at the critical part of what part of the Constitution or the Electoral Act and the INEC guidelines, whatever that needs to be amended should be amended. And then, of course, there is the part of Almost every case, every political contest in Nigeria ends up in the judiciary. Should the court be choosing leaders of the people in a democracy? That is, we have shortchanged the will of the people. We can as well decide that the court should tell us who should be governors and senators. Let everyone go to bed. We have to fix this broken system, and it will take Nigerians waking
Peter
up
for
and
Nigeria
realizing
has
that our
lambasted
lives
Mahmood
depend on
Yakubu.
the
I
quality
mean,
of
he
elections
has
and
called
leaders
him
we
out
produce.
in a very raw manner. I mean, a very raw manner. I'm just going to take you through some of the reactions coming from Nigeria after Peter for Nigeria spoke so passionately about the destruction Mahmood left on ground while leaving office. You know, he's the one that plunge Nigeria to where we are today. Like this person said, the funny thing is he shamelessly never uploaded the result of the 2023 presidential election until he left office because they can't reconcile the original results with the cooked up results they announced. It's really a shame. May the final days of Yakubu be ruined totally. So guys, everybody is just releasing buzzwords. Can you imagine that the 2023 presidential election has still not been uploaded? I mean, they uploaded all kinds of things, even people that were taking their baths in their bathroom, all kinds of things, I mean, on the IREF in the name of result. But the key results are still missing on the IREF. See, today, Mahmood did not reconcile the results of the 2023 presidential election. It's really so shameful. Now, this person said the woman is about to start war. You guys have already started criticizing. What our problem in this country is, maybe we need to advise president to appoint you as INEC chairman. Yeah, they've spoiled the system to the point that Nigerians can no longer believe them. And this person say if he failed to explain to Nigerians how he must explain it to the Almighty God thereafter. Insist on protecting your votes. The evidence is obvious in Abia State. Every eye can see it. In Abia State, we know how the woman came out to say that they gave her money. They tried to intimidate her. They tried to pressurize her. She resisted. She stood her ground and told them that she was going to announce the real result. Now, this person said, which day are we occupying the NAS? Inform us the date. That place is our inheritance. Therefore, we will occupy it until the right thing is done. And this person said, it's a disgrace for you to talk like this. Shame on you. You see, these are Tinubu's men. And this person said, disregarding everyone just because a man lost in an election. Every INEC boss in Nigeria will suffer this fate from people like you. They want to trend by force. This is not a matter of trend. This is a matter of seeing the reality. Court have ordered for his arrest. I hope we all know why he was forcefully asked to resign. God. And this person say EFCC should investigate that thief. This is not even an EFCC. I'm just pitying Mahmood that Mahmood has been used and dumped, and that's exactly what you are seeing. And this other person say may come and find and pursue that wicked man. Another person say I wasn't following this idiot. How can I stop seeing your post, Daft Moron? These are Tinubu's men. And this person say words on marble. Yes, words on marble. That's this person. Immediately I heard Senator Akpabio, I laughed. This person is bad legacy. In a few years from now, he will write a book. Dumbo people will still queue and applaud him. And that is true. Honestly, that's really true. It's really, really, really true. Anyway, guys, let me know your thoughts on this. Mahmood is out of office. Court has ordered for his arrest. What do you think is going to be his fate? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Please don't forget to subscribe and turn on the bell notification. Thank you.